Howdy, my name is Mir Ali, and I chose China because I am intrigued by China's vast amount of different civilizations and how each one can be examined with their unique histories.
Howdy, my name is Michael Stamps, and I chose China because of the deep and rich history that they've contributed to the world, being one of the oldest and most ancient civilizations. It's always fascinated me to take a deeper dive into what they actually were.
Hi, my name is Caleb Sparrow, and I chose China because of how prideful they are over their people and how prideful they are over who they are and how proud they are and how they portray that in their artwork.
Howdy, my name's Ali Chalette. I'm interested in China and the Song Dynasty in particular because of how they express their religious beliefs through symbolic art, especially since this was a time when many different religions began to influence each other.
Howdy, my name is Megan Williams, and I chose China because I have visited the country before and I've always been fascinated with their artwork and the culture that surrounds the country.
In terms of the Song Dynasty's chronology, it followed the Tang Dynasty. It lasted from 960 to 1279. The capital was Bianjing, strategically located near the Yellow River, and this led to agricultural production but also deadly floods. And there were two Song dynasties that I mentioned previously. The Song dynasty can be split into two main geographic distinctions, north and south. From 960 to 1126, the northern Song dynasty prevailed with the capital of Bianjing. From 1127 to 1279, the Song transitioned to the south with the capital in Hangzhou. A war with the Jurchen caused the transition from north to south as the Song were pushed out from the north. In terms of geography, the northern Song dynasty contained the Yellow River along the northern side of the territory. The land in the northern dynasty spanned from central China to the eastern border of modern-day China. The southern dynasty shrank a bit, no longer containing the Yellow River. Also, much of the land in the Song dynasty was inaccessible to the people. Farming was mainly occurring near the Yellow River and eastern part of the territory. The western side contained rough terrains like deserts and mountain ranges, and mountains enclosed the land border on the west while water lined the east.
In terms of the history of the Song dynasty, it spanned over roughly 300 years from 960 AD to 1279 and was ruled during one of the most brilliant and significant cultural epochs. As mentioned earlier, it was divided to a northern, the Bei, and the southern, the Nan periods, and was only ruled the southern part after 1127. Beisong was founded by Zhao Kuangyin, who was a military inspector general, who also usurped control of the empire during a staged coup. A lot of the history is based on administration and instituting principles such as civil service, which followed many Confucian principles. During the Song dynasty, they attempted to live modestly and take the military units under a vast expansion. Before the death of Zhao Kuangyin, the expansion headed south into 10 small kingdoms in southern China. During the Song period, commerce developed to an unprecedented extent, and trade and currency became flourishing. The administration developed a welfare policy that made this one of the most humane periods in Chinese history.
Speaking on culture of the Song dynasty, following the Tang dynasty, the Song dynasty in their artwork came from the inspiration found within the mountains that they retreated to in an attempt to avoid the problematic actions coupled with the end of the previous dynasty. Within the mountains, the natural scenery gave painters ideas that they would not have found within living in the natural city, and it created what was known as monumental landscape painting, which is one of the big marks of the Song dynasty. In these paintings, a relationship between larger mountains and the lesser mountains was shown, described as a ruler among his subjects. And this is one of the many monumental art styles developed in the Song dynasty, particularly in the northern Song dynasty. There was also a political aspect which influenced the culture and type of art within the Song dynasty, as well as the transferring of the government from an aristocracy to a bureaucracy was major. Within the aristocracy, art was only made by people selected by those in power, and it was only made for those in power. However, with the fall of the aristocracy, many others were allowed into the culture, and this created new types of art within the dynasty. Within this time period, a lot of artwork came from the Imperial Painting Academy, where painters were recruited by the court, and the recruited painters were from all different backgrounds and cultures, which in turn made the art come together and create one culture, taking things from each and making it into a uniform style. The manner of art focused heavily on the natural yet descriptive depiction of that art which is portrayed. And when moving into the Southern Song Dynasty, on the other hand, they began to focus heavily on beauty and elegance, keeping in mind natural beauty.
Speaking on religion, Neo-Confucianism emerged in the Song Dynasty, and Buddhist and Taoist philosophies were used to reinforce rather than replace former Confucian ideologies. Many leaders at the time wanted to maintain Confucianism, so they disregarded Buddhism as a foreign belief system, but used its popular teachings to promote Confucianism. Confucianism was founded by Confucius in 500 BCE and is based on the principle that there are two forces called Li and Qi. The Qi is the physical manifestation of something's Li, and the goal for humans is to cleanse their Qi enough to reach a stage of enlightenment within the Great Ultimate. The nomenclature of enlightenment was directed adoptly from Buddhism into Neo-Confucianism. Neo-Confucianism especially emphasized personal growth and strong family units, which was seen as the key to individual and society-level peace. At the same time, Buddhism grew substantially throughout the Song Dynasty. Both Neo-Confucianism and Buddhism are extremely visible in Song Dynasty art. The symbolic nature of Northern Song landscape paintings illustrates the philosophical approach of Confucian thought, and many Buddhist figures are seen in sculpture and paintings.
When the Song Dynasty gained power in 1960, their territory had diminished significantly. However, the society continued to flourish. Agriculture, commerce, and technology blossomed, and the empire gained immense wealth. Art also flourished during the Song Dynasty, being noted for its refined taste and intellectual prowess through painting, sculpture, and pottery. Life in the empire was peaceful and quaint, as there was little to no political turmoil. Cities developed, and many political and legal reforms were implemented to increase centers of trade and industry. In fact, the Song Dynasty was the first in the world to implement true paper money and banknotes, along with being the first Chinese government to establish a permanent navy. Poetry and literature were especially popular in the empire. With the increase of the availability of books, more and more people became educated as well.
Located in the Gangchun County of the Henan Province lies the imperial mausoleums of the Northern Song Dynasty. 7 of the 9 emperors of the Northern Song Dynasty were buried here between 960 and 1127 CE. Buried with each emperor are over 100 people, including their empress, imperial concubines, Maharas, ministers, along with various princes and princesses buried in the surrounding grounds. The concept and consciousness of the mausoleums are different from the mausoleums of the Han and Tang dynasties, which both either occupy a commanding height or have water features and mountain support. The Song mausoleums are low-lying and each are essentially the same in design and layout. That is similar to the Upper Palace, Palace Cluster, Underground Palace, and Lower Palace found throughout the rest of the empire. The mausoleums are walled in with a great divine gate in the center. There is a mausoleum stage in the center with 2 statues of palace servants to the south. From the altar in front of the mausoleums, moving south from the gate, are pairs of Chaluna, whose minister transmitted the decrees of emperor and empress, Zendian, who was a general who guarded the imperial mausoleums, lions in running posture, courtiers, sheep, tigers, horses held by stable boys, unicorns, screens with carved phoenixes, elephants with keepers and pillars. These stone statues and the stone lions guarding the other 3 gates are finely sculpted, demonstrating the Song Dynasty's stone sculptures had gradually discarded the pronounced mythical air and began to display a sense of real life. The expressions of the human figures are vivid and the social status of the person is evident. For example, the Nuchus have a full, broad forehead and seem reverent and respectful. They're holding horsetail whisks as if awaiting the emperor's call. The Chanlu, on the other hand, have square faces and large ears and are immaculately dressed, with one hand hanging down and the other on their chests, as if waiting for imperial orders. The Zendian generals are holding swords, have helmets and armor with more rounded face and large eyes. Sculptors most favored smooth, round carvings supplemented by level, straight segments. These reflect the artistic creativity of the Song Dynasty and the unified system of stone sculpture in the Northern Song period. The earliest Northern Song sculptures were coarsely carved, similar to the Tang Dynasty style. Beginning from the middle of the period, the sculptures became more and more exquisite and refined. The order of the mausoleums in burial year are the Yangchang, Yangji, Yangding, Yangzhou, Yangho, Yangyu, and Yangtai. The eighth mausoleum on the property was actually the first one there, called the Yangyan Mausoleum. Zhao Hongyan was the father of the first emperor of the Song dynasty and was moved to the complex after death. The Northern Song dynasty found its capital in Kaifeng but has its mausoleums built in an area 130 kilometers away. Gongxian County had a beautiful scenery, excellent soil texture, low water levels, and good features for creating a serene area. Builders were in agreement with building the coffin pits in deep in order to provide the raw stone for the sculptures. Designs of the 8 mausoleums are generally alike, each mausoleum occupying an area of more than 8 hectares with a fairly large tomb terrace described previously.
Guanyin, Bodhisattva of Compassion, is an incredible piece of art that dates to the early 12th century. At over 4 feet tall, Guanyin is lifelike in size. His origin is Jishan County in the Shanxi province of northern China, which is inscribed on the figure's back. A bodhisattva is a figure in Buddhism who has the ability to reach nirvana, but chooses to stay behind and offer help to others on their journey to enlightenment. This art piece reflects the importance of the influence of Buddhism on Chinese art, and its original purpose was to be an object of worship within a monastery. This figure depicts one of the 4 major Chinese bodhisattvas, Guanyin. Guanyin translates to the one who listens to the cries of the world. The figure's features are soft and lifelike, which was a consequence of realism during the Song dynasty. The most prominent iconographic feature of Guanyin is his relaxed stature, known as the pose of royal ease. The way his arms and legs are positioned make him appear very open and approachable. All bodhisattvas are depicted as royalty, since it is believed that only those born into the royal class are able to reach enlightenment within that lifetime. Another iconographic attribute is that bodhisattvas are usually covered with jewelry, elaborately placed clothing, and crowned with a symbolic depiction of Buddha. One feature that makes this bodhisattva distinctively Guanyin is his downward gaze. This gives the sense that he's looking towards and listening to those calling out to him. It is also theorized that this downward gaze could be showing him looking at the moon's reflection in water, which is a common motif throughout Buddhist art and is seen as symbolism for earthly occurrences that were unexplainable at the time. Guanyin, Bodhisattva of Compassion, has undergone many changes to its physical appearance throughout its existence. The figure was constructed from 14 pieces of empress tree wood. When the figure first entered museum care, it was completely painted white. Art historians believe that the white paint had been applied as an act of devotion to Guanyin. However, conservation efforts have attempted to restore the figure's original colors, such as the red and green that can be seen in Guanyin's clothing. Guanyin's gold skin was created through the application of gold leaf. However, it is also believed that this skin was originally white or pink, and that the gold was also a later addition. The gold was added by heating the metal and hammering it into thin pieces and then applying it to the figure with an adhesive. Under a closer look, floral patterns can even be seen within the gold leaf. Finally, Guanyin's eyes were made of dark glass beads. It's interesting to note that Guanyin is draped with layers of jewelry. It would not be uncommon for devotees to place jewelry beside the figure. Many associate reaching nirvana with the disregard for earthly riches, and it can be confusing why Guanyin would still collect these treasures. However, as a bodhisattva, Guanyin has chosen to forego reaching enlightenment, and thus these offerings represent his high moral standing while still being a worldly being.
Portrayed here are the 3 different sections of the scroll in which the painting along the river during the King Ming festival is displayed. Credited to Zhang Shidun as the original artist is unable to be found, this specific painting depicts a festival occurring in the early spring, and the meaning of King Ming itself also refers to early spring. Depicted in this picture is the city Dongjing, which is a city that holds the spring in high regard. The scroll itself is of a decent size, being roughly 25 centimeters high and 5 centimeters long. Made of silk and imprinted with lightly colored ink, This painting depicts 3 different scenes, each interesting in their own manner. At the top right, the first scene is displayed, showing the city gate and commenting in a way on the times of the city, as the ruined gate and the overgrowing of the trees could indicate the time before the Jin invasion, an invasion from which this scroll is to believe have been recovered. Beyond that, this painting and the other 3 sections themselves introduce us to a technique known as ruled line painting, used to capture man-made structures that define urban city life in an incredibly realistic detail. To create these paintings, a ruler and a line brush were used to create straight lines, and these 2 were the basis of essentially the entire art style. Throughout the painting of the gate and the other 2, focusing on the city and the river, 2 essential parts of song art can be recognized, as their precision or attention to detail and appreciation of the natural occurrences both shine through. The sign of the times may also be commented on, as this painting was said to be discovered during the Jin invasions, and the way in which the city gate was portrayed does shed light on this. While commenting on the unfavorable parts of the time suggesting the Jin invasion, the painting also suggests a good time, as the Qingming Festival itself was a joyous occasion. The Qingming Festival represents a holiday in which the living would sweep the graves of the dead in honor of those who were no longer around. Besides this holiday being a possible factor in the painting of this scroll, the Qingming Festival painting could also represent simply a good time, and it is said that a bustling, harmonious city, like the peaceful and orderly landscape suggests, that the emperor is capable of governing his people, and that the people are essentially happy with that. Times in the Song Dynasty were in fact joyous, so this may not be far from the truth. Yet coupling that with the possible threat of the Jin invasion is an interesting take. Using silk, rolled line painting, and incorporating an appreciation for nature and life, this painting is a great representation of Song Dynasty art.
The piece of architecture that I decided to do my presentation on is the pagoda, most specifically the Louis Pagoda, or the Six Harmonies Pagoda, during the Song Dynasty. Before I get into the details of the Louis Pagoda, it's important to understand where pagodas came from. Pagodas developed from Indian stupas as Buddhism spread throughout the northeast along the Great Silk Road. Pagodas have been closely associated with Hinduism, but merged with Buddhist practices as they made their way into Chinese culture. Pagodas have been modified greatly over the centuries, but all have similar spherical shapes, with the octagon becoming the most famous Chinese style of pagoda architecture. Many of these pagodas also housed ancient relics and artifacts such as sacred texts or shrines. The image shown in the first slide is that of the Louis Pagoda, more popularly known as the Six Harmonies Pagoda, found in Hangzhou, China, and was constructed under the Song Dynasty in 1165 AD. The origins of the Louis Pagoda lie deeply entrenched in Buddhism. Known as the Six Harmonies Pagoda, the Louis Pagoda is representative of the six harmonies or decrees of Buddhism, which are heaven, earth, east, west, north, and south. The Six Harmonies Pagoda was originally built to help the flow of the Qiangtang River, which flowed violently and flooded several surrounding settlements. The Louis Pagoda stands 13 stories high and has 8 sides that present full flavor of intake and magnificent tranquility. Inside the Six Harmonies Pagoda, there are several different ornate forms of artwork, such as carvings of flowers, birds, animals, and immortals. Along with the colorful artwork that captivates the interior walls, there are also poems that have been written that describe the charm of the Louis Pagoda as well as the Qiangtang River. There are also 104 bells that hang on the exterior of the pagoda, giving a viewer a harmonious ringing that further entrenches one into the fascinating story or history of the Six Harmonies Pagoda. The current standing Louis Pagoda was constructed mainly out of wood and brick, with additional eaves that were added during latter dynasties. In order to reach the top of the Six Harmonies Pagoda, one must climb 7 stories of a spiral staircase. I mentioned earlier that the Luhi Pagoda was 13 stories high. However, this was done or made as an illusion so that viewers would view the tower more magnificently and greater than what it actually was. But the interior only has 7 stories. Once at the top, there are breathtaking views of the raging Kiangtang River. Many describe the views at the very top of the pagoda as awe-inspiring and captivating, and truly brings out the charm in the history of the Luhi Pagoda.
The Guanware vessel is a piece of stoneware made from porcelain, stone, wood, and ash mixtures for glaze making with 20 to 30% calcareous wood ash. Although the grayish color may appear to be jade, it was theorized to be formed from complex microstructures, made from layers of fine bubbles trapped during the glazing process. Also, the kilns used to make the vessel in conjunction with the multi-layer glazing methods allowed for unruly clay to turn into such beautiful colored ceramics. In determining how it was made, it was found that it contained residual quartz of different sizes with a small amount of mullite, a residue of mica, some iron oxide, and some glassy phase. The Guanware ceramics were traditionally very coveted and exclusively used by the imperials. Even today, they are very coveted, as shown by a man in 2015 purchasing a Guanware vessel for $14.7 million. Guan means official in Chinese, which follows the naming. Court officials made kilns in the Southern Song Dynasty to create Guanware. The specific Guanware vessel pictured contains a gray stoneware with a crackled grayish-blue glaze. It contains a translucent crackled glaze with a wide variation of jade-like colors, a thin body of 1 to 5 millimeters, a thick glaze that is often thicker than the thinnest bodies, and special features called purple mouth and iron foot. It depicts harmony through the use of a rounded body, high neck, and extended lip. It also shares an introspective quality with the river paintings due to the intact material from the base to the lip. The cracking pattern is noteworthy as it was used in most intricate Guanware and mirrors the landscape styles in traditional Song paintings. As ceramics, the purpose of most Guanware was regular usage by the emperors as bowls or vessels. The cracking was a design feature purposefully utilized by the Song potters, achieved through tension from the clay body and glaze, contracting at different rates. As for the artistic purpose, not much is concrete, as it is just a ceramic piece without any additional artwork. But an interpretation mentions that it shows the austere and quiet beauty shown in Song pottery. It is subtle and brings attention to itself not through ostentatious displays, but from its masterful craftsmanship. It contains no other competing decorations that would take from its simplicity in shape and texture. Common to many Guanware pieces, the tall neck and smooth contouring of the base and lip gives insight into the potter's desire to make intricate yet smooth, almost peaceful artwork. Overall, the Guanware vessel shows the immense mastery of pottery by the potters in the Southern Song Dynasty in order to provide the imperials with the best ceramics available.